All right, guys, good evening and welcome back to another one of our group calls. We are talking strictly fat loss this week. We're doing fat loss tips and hacks that should be talked about more. That is kind of the title of the call today. These are things that I have learned throughout many years of trial and error on myself, and also throughout the years that I have been coaching as well. I've coached a lot of people up until this point. It's probably in the thousands at this point, how many people I've worked with. These are all things that I have learned along the way, things that I think are such good hacks that aren't often really shared. And I think it's one of those things that like that it's little tips and tricks that make fat loss really easy. There isn't really like readily available information. And I think that it's one of those things where often it's not like if you don't know it, you don't know it. And I want to share with you guys, if I haven't already, I mean, I talk about obviously this with you guys a lot, but particularly for you guys that maybe haven't been in the program for that long, these are things that I think make fat loss so easy and like it's on repeat. It's not widely accessible. A lot of people don't talk about these sorts of things. I try to talk about them kind of on my corner of Instagram as much as possible, but I want to go through them with you guys so that you can see that just because you're somebody that is trying to change your physique, trying to lose weight, that doesn't mean that it has to be something that completely dominates your whole entire life. Of course, particularly if you're trying to lose weight or gain weight, especially if you have a specific physique goal, it does require some hard work, of course. It requires an element of sacrifice. But that doesn't mean that it has to literally dominate your entire life and it's the only thing that you can think about and the only thing that you can do. You can definitely lead a full life and still make amazing progress. And these tips I'm going to talk you through, there are six of them, are hopefully going to help you to see that it can be easier, less time consuming than you think. So, the aim of today, we know the foundations of fat loss, right? All of you guys here. We know that the principle of it is being in a calorie deficit, strength training, and using those two main tools in order to make sure that you lose fat consistently every week. But like I said, there are tips and tricks that a lot of people don't know that make fat loss feel like it's on easy mode. And those are the things, the little nitty bitty bits or like little like golden nuggets, bits of information that I think are so useful that aren't necessarily something that everybody knows. So I want to go through these now. So these are six hacks that I've got for you that will make fat loss feel like it is on easy mode. First thing is eating the same foods every day. Before I dive into this, I want to make it very clear that I am not saying to you guys you have to eat the same food, exactly the same meals every single day for the rest of your life. I am absolutely not saying that. That would be insane advice because that would be really boring. And also, that doesn't really promote very good, like, diversity in your gut. It doesn't promote a very overall balanced or diverse gut microbiome. So, there's absolutely no way that I'm saying if you want to be in shape and lose weight, you've got to do this and eat the exact same stuff every day forever. However, what I do think is that having a few recipes that you love while you're trying to lose weight, that you repeat often, is basically an insanely good cheat code for fat loss. You'll notice that generally, I mean, in the way that I make my content and also the recipes that I give you guys, I never give recipes or advice on recipes or food that is like these really crazy, beautiful aesthetic recipes. I think the people that make that content on Instagram, don't get me wrong, are very, very talented, much more talented than me. I am not a very good cook. Adam will tell you that. I do not like to cook and I'm not that good at it. I'm even worse at baking. I'm terrible. But even so, there's a reason why I don't share loads and loads of recipe content. It's because I think that very often people make the mistake in thinking that if they want to lose weight, they've suddenly got to spend hours and hours and hours in the kitchen creating really convoluted recipes that take loads of time. I am very anti that because I think that is putting up obstacles and putting up barriers to something that you might not even like doing. You might be someone that absolutely loves cooking and has lots of time to cook. And if that is you, that's incredible. More power to you. The same as the way that I think about those creators that make these incredible, beautiful recipes. But if you're like me, who, you're busy, you're juggling a lot of things, you don't necessarily want to be in the kitchen with loads of washing up and loads of meal prep time. I think that if you suddenly feel like, oh, I have to have like all these crazy recipes and I've suddenly got to become an incredible cook, that is just putting up such barriers to entry when it comes to nutrition and losing weight. And you guys know that your diet and your mindset are 80% of the battle with fat loss. Training and exercise is actually a very small part of fat loss. Not to say it's not important, but in terms of the result, it's largely mindset and nutrition. So for me to say you now suddenly have to have all these crazy recipes and spend a lot of time prepping, I think that is very counterproductive. And I think that makes things seem a lot harder than they need to be. So, what I mean by this is, I think that it's really good to have, and this is what I personally do as well and brings great results for me. You should have three breakfast recipes, three lunch recipes, and three dinner recipes that you really enjoy eating, that taste good, that are high protein and high fiber. We'll talk about that in a bit more in a second. But I think that you should have three really solid recipes that you love eating, that you can just rotate through and save as recipes in MyFitnessPal. Something else we'll talk about a bit more in a second. The benefits of this: they're recipes that you enjoy eating, so you're enjoying your food, but it removes decision fatigue. It removes unnecessary variables and stress, i.e., having to create a crazy shopping list every week, making sure you've bought in all the ingredients when they're new ingredients every week, having just tons of washing up everywhere because you're doing all these crazy recipes. It removes all those unnecessary variables and stress and keeps things really streamlined and really simple when you don't have a lot of time. It saves you hours of meal prep when you're busy. Like I said, you don't have to spend hours. You can literally do 30 minutes a week if you want and just kind of repeat that. And you also will very quickly learn what meals work for you in your calorie deficit and what meals are going to keep you relatively full and keep you on track with your deficit as well. So I'm not saying you have to eat the same thing and it's going to be really boring, but I do think you should have just a few recipes that are very macro friendly, help you to lose weight, help you to feel fairly satisfied after meals, and that are really tasty to you and that you really enjoy. And then the second one of them, let's say one of your breakfasts gets really boring, you can just chuck that recipe out and just replace it with another. This is the principle that I have always used with myself and with loads and loads of you guys, working with you guys and working with other people over the years. It works so well because the main thing is that it removes decision fatigue. And I know that most of the battle with fat loss is you come home from work at the end of the day after a long day. You're sorting everybody else out, you're sorting your family out, your kids out, you've got other responsibilities. Then when it comes to being like, oh God, it's the evening, it's 7 o'clock, and I've got to try and think of a dinner to make, that is so exhausting after making loads and loads of decisions throughout the day. And like I say, decision fatigue at that point in the day is really high. Having this attitude, just having a few simple, quick recipes that you love eating every day, removes that decision fatigue, removes unnecessary barriers to losing weight and staying in shape, and it makes this so much easier. So that is the first big hack and something I'd really recommend. For example, Adam and I, what we'll very often do, whether we are both trying to lose weight or even not, is we'll have a few recipes that we love to eat, and I will always use something like a slow cooker. Adam will, not me. I'm not going to lie. It's normally Adam because I don't like cooking. But Adam will grab loads of ingredients together. We'll prep something in a slow cooker, chuck everything in, and just leave it for a few hours. And then it's minimal prep time. It's like 10 minutes. And we will have something really delicious to eat for our lunches while we're working throughout the week that is high protein, high fiber, and literally took us about 10 minutes to cook. And then we just have to buy our food in for the week. That's an example of what I mean, just having really quick, easy recipes, just a few of each that you can rotate through. That is the first hack and something that helps so much when you are trying to lose weight. The second one, leading on from that, once you're in a place where you are having a few select recipes that you really love, you can start pre-tracking your meals and pre-tracking your food. Tracking is not the most fun thing in the world, but when I speak to people that tell me that they've tried tracking before and they absolutely hate it, or they found it very restrictive or monotonous, or it didn't work for them, very often it's because they were tracking in a way that wasn't sustainable, or they've simply just not been shown the right way to track. A lot of these things, like I said at the start, a lot of these things that I'm teaching you here are going to be like, oh, I had no idea about that. It's taken me many years of trial and error on myself to learn these hacks that I can now share with you guys. A lot of people make the mistake in tracking in a way that is very boring, that is very time consuming. You're in a constant cycle of, oh God, I forgot to log that meal. I've now got to go back in and log everything afterwards, and it feeling really monotonous and time consuming. Not tracking throughout your day, having to log everything at night before bed when you're tired, when decision fatigue is high. So pre-tracking your food is a really easy way to combat that. And I promise you that if you follow this technique and take this advice I'm giving you here, tracking will end up taking you between 5 to 10 minutes per day, which is nothing, right? You can do that no matter how busy you are. So once you commit to a few recipes that you really love, tracking your food and using MyFitnessPal can then feel like it's on autopilot. So once you've got three recipes of each meal that you really enjoy using, you can just save those frequently used recipes on MyFitnessPal. You no longer need to go through and log every single ingredient individually every single time unless you make a new recipe. If you have those few recipes that you rotate through often and use, they are just saved as recipes on MyFitnessPal. Logging those becomes so easy and takes very minimal time. Once you're in this place, once you have committed to having a few recipes that you love and you have started saving your recipes on MyFitnessPal, all you have to do to pre-track is 5 minutes in the morning. I always recommend doing it when you're either having your morning breakfast or your morning coffee, whatever it might be. Those few minutes in the morning where you do get just a little bit of time for yourself. I know particularly for you guys that are parents, you might not have a lot of time in the mornings, but this will only take you 5 minutes. Once you've done that, once you've got your favorite recipe saved, you can spend 5 minutes in the morning over your morning coffee, logging your breakfast and your lunch that is pre-tracked for the day. If you're someone that doesn't necessarily prep your dinners, you still come home and cook your dinners in the evening, fine, but use a recipe that is pre-tracked on MyFitnessPal that you've got a recipe saved for, and then you can just spend 5 minutes straight after dinner logging your dinner, and then that's everything done for the day. When you think of it like that, 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes straight after dinner, that is absolutely no time at all. And that is because you are keeping your nutrition very simple. You have a few recipes that you love. You are saving things as recipes on MyFitnessPal. You've done that groundwork for the first week or two. And then from there, this literally feels like it's on easy mode. So this works so well and is such a good cheat code because tracking no longer is a chore that takes you ages. Again, it removes decision fatigue. And that is kind of the on-running theme of this call is taking out decision fatigue and taking out stress as much as we can. And also, you'll know 100% for a fact that you're in a calorie deficit because you are logging your food and doing a bit of pre-tracking. So you have much less room for error rather than eating your food throughout the day, thinking, oh God, I'm not going to log that, I'll do it later, getting home at night, either forgetting you can't be bothered because you're tired, or just quickly scrambling and tracking at the end of the day and not remembering fully everything that you've had. It removes a lot of potential for error. So that's why pre-tracking is so good. Number three, daily steps. There's a big misconception that cardio, intense cardio, and just doing more and more and more exercise is what you have to be doing to lose weight. That is not how our bodies work. Our kind of our TDEE, which stands for like total daily energy expenditure, only really 10% of the daily energy that we burn comes from exercise. What it actually comes from is our daily movement, much more than anything. So, kind of all those like micro movements and moving daily. So, if you're someone that thinks I've got to lose weight, I'm suddenly going to go just like do loads of running on the treadmill and do loads of exercise and loads of running, you're not going to get very much progress. What you are much better off doing is focusing on more regular daily movement throughout your day, and that comes from daily steps. Cardio, more exercise doesn't equal more calories burned and faster fat loss. That's not how it works. But what does work is a controlled calorie deficit combined with daily steps and daily movement. Steps are so good for fat loss because they are low fatigue. They are very easy to recover from. Because you're not doing these really intense bursts of cardio really often when trying to lose weight, you're not going to have really big hunger spikes, which can really happen if you're someone that's trying to lose weight and just doing loads and loads of cardio. It also just overall helps increase your daily calorie burn as well. You can literally burn more calories, about 10 times more than doing cardio. That's not like an exact number, but it's just to show you that overall, more regular movement throughout your day will mean that you burn significantly more calories at rest compared to if you just did a burst of cardio daily. It also doesn't interfere with your training, which is really good. So if you're someone that's doing quite a lot of training, if you are doing other bits of training that's a bit more cardio focused, obviously you guys are all doing a strength program being here as well. Steps do nothing to interfere with your training as well. So all in all, it's so good to make sure that you lose fat consistently and faster because you're doing more daily movement. But it's also not something you have to really intensely recover from, and it limits the potential for really big hunger spikes, which a lot of intense cardio can do. So, daily steps, there's a reason why you guys all have a step target on Everfit and why you guys should be hitting that. It doesn't have to be 10,000 a day. Some of you might have 10,000 a day as your daily step goal because you guys just naturally do a lot. But even if you're doing anywhere between like 6 to 10,000, that is a really good solid amount of daily steps to be doing for fat loss. And it's all obviously personalized and individual to you guys. But that daily step goal isn't just there on a whim and and not for a reason. It is there because this is actually a really big part of the process. A calorie deficit is, the top number one thing that's going to make sure that you lose weight, but steps is up there along with sleep as really good things to make sure that you lose weight really consistently. So don't sleep on your steps. If you're letting your steps slide at the moment, make a really conscious effort to make sure that you're really hitting your step goal because it makes a huge difference. Number 4 is high volume foods. We chatted a little bit about fiber earlier. So what I mean by eating high volume foods is when you are dieting, you want to still feel like as much as possible that you are not eating small portions. You still want to feel like that you're having good, decent, chunky sized portions and bowls of food so that you're not actively feeling like you're having tiny meals that inadvertently make you feel really hungry. Examples of high volume foods are potatoes, oats, fruit, veg, lean protein. Lean protein, I mean things like chicken, turkey, low fat beef mince. If you're a veggie or a vegan like myself, things like tofu, tempeh, seitan, all of these things are considered like lean protein. Tuna is also a source of that as well. So the reason why the high fiber foods are so good to incorporate, and high volume foods are so good to incorporate, because there is a very high fiber content. Fiber in general is something that I think is not spoken about enough in the fitness community. We talk about protein, 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 protein all the time because protein is the most filling macronutrient. Absolutely it is. It really helps to build muscle. Make sure that if you're combining it with strength training, you're losing fat and not too much muscle tissue. But it also helps with fullness. Fiber also massively helps you to stay full between meals as well. Protein combined together with fiber, if you're getting a really good amount of both in, protein wise, pretty much like 30% of your daily intake. You guys all obviously have a target individually for your protein. Fiber wise, you want to be aiming from anywhere to like 20 to 30 grams a day. That's considered like a really good amount. If you are combining those two things together, you are in such a good chance of feeling satisfied after your meals. Feeling a little bit hungry in a calorie deficit is totally normal, it's to be expected at points, but there's no reason for you to be starving or having any intense cravings. And that will come from you having lots of protein and making a really big effort to include lots of fiber in your food. So foods that have got really good fiber content in are lentils and pulses and legumes. So things like kidney beans, chickpeas, lentils, all that sort of stuff. Berries, avocado, nuts, they are all very, very high in fiber. Any kind of seeds like hemp seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, they have excellent fiber. Oats have amazing fiber as well. Complex carbohydrates have a really decent amount in there as well. So brown pasta, brown rice. And also more kind of like starchy veggies. So again, potatoes will have a good fiber content in there, more kind of like leafy veg, like kind of like broccoli, all that sort of stuff. Fruit does have fiber in to an extent, but things like fruit and cucumber and tomatoes do have a very high water content. So they obviously are really good for you, have loads of vitamins, but they're not super high in terms of actual fiber. So if you feel like, oh, I'm putting loads of salad leaves with my food and I'm putting cucumber and I'm putting like fruit and I'm still not feeling super, super full, those things are obviously incredible to incorporate, but they're not actually that high fiber wise. You'd be better off going for the other stuff that I've mentioned there because they are more fibrous, as well as adding in that stuff. So high volume foods and high volume eating are good to incorporate because they're high fiber, so you'll stay full combined with protein. High water content, which is just good because you can be feeling hydrated as well. It means that you can have larger portion sizes for fewer calories. That's why high volume food is so good. So like I said earlier, big ass portions as much as possible to feel like you're eating with good volume. It also just promotes more gut microbiome diversity, so better gut health overall, which is also there's a lot of evidence to suggest that how easily you lose weight and how sustainably you lose weight each week can have something to do with your gut health and how much gut bacteria you have as well. So all of this stuff is a really good thing to think of because you're just going to boost up your gut health and potentially lose weight more consistently over a longer period of time as well. So high volume foods is number 4. Number 5, creatine. A few of you have asked me about creatine at the moment. If you guys are not taking creatine, even if you're not someone, all of you guys are, but even if you know people in your life that don't necessarily lift weights, creatine is an amazing supplement to add in. Creatine is a better fat loss supplement than any fat burners out there. If there's anything out there, or any supplement or any pill or tablet or thing that you're seeing that claims that it burns fat, it is a complete fad and it's not true. But creatine isn't a fat loss supplement at all. It's actually something that helps with muscle building, but it inadvertently and indirectly really helps with fat loss. That is because it doesn't burn fat directly, but what creatine does as a supplement, so creatine is an energy and something that we create within our bodies, and it's part of an energy system that we use when we lift weights. So when we do exercise that is a bit less in time, that is focused on like more power and lifting, i.e., weightlifting. So it's something that we naturally create in our bodies, and adding it in as a supplement helps us to basically produce more of it. And what that does is it makes us more efficient and improves our training performance in the gym. More creatine to your muscles means that you recover more efficiently and faster in between your sets when you're lifting. So inadvertently, it helps you to lift heavier and progress faster in the gym because you're basically recovering better. And that's why creatine is really good. So not only does it improve your training performance, as a result of that, it means that you build muscle faster and you have more increased chance of building lean muscle mass. That helps you to retain muscle in a calorie deficit. More muscle means that you are more efficient at losing fat over time. So it doesn't directly burn fat, but because you are in a place where you're training better, as a knock-on effect, you're building more muscle. As a knock-on effect, more muscle means that you're better at burning fat and you have a faster metabolism. That's why it's so good. Also, as a side note, creatine is amazing for your health, for your brain health, and for your cognitive function. So that's why I'm saying, even if you're not someone or if you know people around you that don't necessarily lift weights, it's a really good thing to take just because it is really good for your brain as well. Ignore all those rumors about creatine causing health problems and making your hair fall out and all this stuff. Like, none of that's true. It's a really safe supplement, and it's one of the only supplements I would actually really recommend you guys taking because it's really good for performance in the gym and it helps with fat loss indirectly. So if you're not taking it at the moment, I would recommend just go for pure creatine monohydrates. Don't go for anything else if it's got it mixed in. Quite often they mix it in with things. Flavored creatines have kind of like a lot of added chemicals and stuff into them as well. So I would recommend just going for pure creatine monohydrate. Adam and I just get the one from Myprotein. You can get like a 500 gram bag of it for like £7. It's really not expensive at all. So I would recommend adding that in if you're not already, because it's good for your brain, good for your muscles, good for fat loss. The final one is planning your meals out in advance. So obviously, every time that you have a meal coming out, there's going to be times where it's not a planned thing. So you sometimes you're going to be in situations where you can't track your food and you can't plan ahead. That's okay. But in the times where you can, start getting used to planning ahead for your meals out and being organized. So most of the time, the secret to being able to lose fat but still go out and enjoy yourself on the weekends every now and then and go out for meals. The secret to that is preparation and planning. So when it comes to meals out, what you need to start doing and what you need to start thinking of is thinking about where you can plan ahead. So if you know at the start of the week that you're going out for dinner on a Saturday, pick from the menu that you're going from ahead of time. If it has the calorie info on there where you're going, that's great. What you can do is just pick what you're going to have, pre-track that into your MyFitnessPal for that day. Let's say, for example, you're going out on a Saturday. Pick something from the menu, you know how many calories it is, log it into MyFitnessPal for the Saturday, and then pre-track your food and just build the rest of your weekend around that meal. If you know that you're going out for lunch, it's going to be a high calorie lunch. You can have a high protein but lower calorie breakfast, and you can do the same thing for dinner. That alone and pre-tracking is going to save so much headspace. And most importantly, you're not going to feel like you have to suddenly become a hermit and shut yourself away because you want to lose weight. You can still go out and enjoy yourself just by doing that bit of planning ahead of time. If you don't have the calorie info on there, there's a lot of menus. Obviously, if you go to more of an independent place, they don't have the calorie info on there. What you can do is just get ChatGPT to do you a rough estimate of how many calories would be in that meal as much as you can. It won't be exact. ChatGPT won't get it bang on right, but it will be a good ballpark if you're like, oh my God, I'm going to have this to eat and I have no idea. That will really help you to pre-track. That way you can still enjoy your meals out and still make progress. Obviously, you're going to be in situations sometimes where you go out for meals and it's a surprise. Your partner might say, like, I'm taking out for dinner tonight. In those situations, it's going to be a lot harder to navigate. But remember, you guys don't have to be perfect. If you have a couple of meals here or there where they're not tracked and you know you've gone over, you're not going to undo all your progress. You will only undo your progress if you let that meal off plan just completely derail you. All you need to do the following day is just admit, okay, I've gone over my calories. I've overeaten, definitely. I don't know how many calories are in there, but I know it's going to be over. I've just got to accept that, not beat myself up, and just get back to it the next day. And you've just got to be really committed to doing that and being resilient and bouncing back. There does have to be an element of sacrifice to lose weight. I'm never going to sit here and say, yeah, you guys can just go out every single weekend, drink loads of alcohol, eat whatever you want, and you'll lose weight. Of course, like we're not deluded here. There has to be an element of sacrifice if you're in a zone where you want to lose weight, but you can have a bit more of a balance if you commit to being organized. At the moment, when you guys are trying to lose weight, no, you can't go out to a restaurant every single weekend, not know how many calories are in your meals, have a starter, main, and dessert and alcohol, and just hope and pray that you'll lose weight on Monday. No, you can't do that. However, you can still go out and have a starter and a main, or a main and a dessert, or a main course and an alcoholic drink of your choice. You can still do that and plan ahead and pre-track it and still get the best of both worlds there. So that's the six biggest hacks that I personally think there is out there for fat loss. So to sum up, the six are eating similar foods and having recipes that you love on repeat and keeping that as limited as possible, still making sure you're enjoying your food, pre-tracking your meals and pre-tracking in the week, daily steps, high volume eating, focusing on bigger portions that are lower calorie, and lots of fiber. Taking creatine as a supplement that indirectly really helps you with your physique goals, and planning out for meals in advance when you can. These things are simple, but they will make fat loss feel 10 times easier, honestly. They are much less time consuming, and the main thing is that they remove decision fatigue. Particularly, all of you guys I know are busy, you lead busy lives, you don't have a lot of time. These hacks, if you are willing to put the work in, maybe on the weekends and do a bit of meal prepping and pre-track, if you're willing to do that and designate a small amount of time, you will save yourself hours in the week, and fat loss will seem so much less overwhelming. It will seem so much more easier. And if you're not doing these things at the moment, and in particular, let's say if you are struggling at the moment, let's say you're like, oh, I'm really struggling to know how to go out for restaurant meals and not completely ruin my progress. Or I'm coming away from meals and I know I should be adding more fiber, but I don't really know how, and I don't really know why I should. Or I keep getting home at the end of the day and I'm tracking my food, but it's when I'm tired, I can't really be bothered to do it. And I ate that meal like 10 hours ago, so I don't fully remember what I had, or I'm logging from the day before, for example. If there is one area here that you guys are struggling with that you're not doing at the moment, then I want you to pick one of these things and start to think, okay, I could be better at tracking, or I could be better at meal prepping, or I could be better at including more protein and fiber into my food. I want you to take one of these six hacks and commit to making a change with that this week. So I hope this was helpful. These things have made my life 10 times easier, I know, over the years. And I know that, after people that I've worked with, these things do really work if you give them a go and really give them your all. So if you have any questions for me, you know where I am, just drop me a message one-to-one. But after this, for those of you that are here live, I'd love you to post into the group chat, whichever group chat you're in, with the hashtag mindset, and share what your biggest takeaway from the call is, or one thing that you're going to start implementing from this call. I'm going to let you guys all go. It's been lovely to have you here. And if you guys are also listening back on YouTube, drop me a message afterwards as well. And I'll obviously be happy to answer any questions if you need further help. But have a lovely evening, guys. And have a good one.